Wine's POV. A lot could happen in one night, you know? Trust me, Percy. I know. I, of all people, wouldn't know. 24 hours ago, I didn't have a boyfriend, and now I do. A few weeks went by, and my relationship with Luke became stronger, and I honestly couldn't be happier that we were dating. Although, since I've been spending more time with Luke, I haven't had as much time for Percy. Don't get me wrong, we still hang out a lot, and we've kept the weekly Saturday night tradition of Halo Night alive, but I can't help but feel a little sad, a little sad that I don't see him as much anymore. In all honesty, I kind of miss it just being the two of us. And I know that sounds ungrateful and selfish, and I never would tell Luke, and I would never tell Luke I felt that way. It's just, I can't really talk to Luke about the kinds of things Percy and I talk about. I could go to Percy about literally anything, but Luke seems less inclined to hear about how much fun it would be to prank Travis and Connor for once. Luke would always just nod and agree with me to make it seem like he was listening, but I could tell he didn't really care. Sometimes I just miss being able to rant to someone about anything whenever I need to. That's why I love Halo Night even more than before, because I could just talk and talk and talk, and Percy just listens, like actually listens, and he doesn't ever judge me, no matter what I say. And if I'm ranting about a problem, he's always been really good at giving me helpful advice. The thing is, Luke wasn't as keen on Halo Night as I was. He claimed he was okay with me hanging out with Percy and sleeping over when we stayed up too late. But whenever I told him I was going over there, he gave me this look that made me feel like I was doing something bad. I never really thought too long on it. If Luke had a problem, he'll tell me, right? Today was Saturday, around 5 p.m., so I soon head off to the Poseidon cabin to hang out with Percy. I just had to finish teaching a few of the new demigods how to hold a sword properly, and boy, was that a tiring exercise. None of them seemed to grasp the concept of not letting go of the sword when you swing it. After half an hour, I finally finish up, and I head back to my cabin to grab a few things before going over to meet Percy in his cabin. I walk into cabin 7, and over my bed in the corner, I met with a tired-looking Luke reading a book on my bed. He notices me walk in, and he looks up from his book before putting it down and putting all his attention on me. "Hey, I was waiting for you. What took you so long?" I chuckled to myself. Yeah. Sorry you had to wait for so long. The newer demigods aren't really great with the sword. Luke looked down at his hands and laughed gently to himself before looking back at me again and talking. "Well, I was thinking maybe we could hang out tonight. Maybe a movie and cuddles?" I look up from the pre-packed bag on the ground under my bed, and I looked at Luke. And enticing as enticing as that sounded, I really wanted to hang out with Percy tonight. I promised him I wouldn't skip on Halo Night again. Well, that sounds really nice, babe, but it's Saturday. Luke looked at me like he was waiting for me to explain why that was an issue. I continued the sentence. Saturday is Halo night, remember? I'm supposed to hang out with Percy tonight. Luke looked at me with the hint of disappointment in his in his expression. Well, I'm sure he won't mind if you skip 1 week. I mean, come on. We haven't really had a night in, just two of us. I felt kind of guilty. Luke was right. We hadn't really been on a date for a couple of weeks. But I also felt like, but I also felt it was kind of selfish of him to expect me to just drop my plans with Percy so I could hang out with him. Yeah, I know, but I promised Percy I wouldn't skip out on Halo night again. I don't want to break my promise to him. Luke chuckled nervously. Wyan, come on. I'm your boyfriend. Don't I rank higher in your list of priorities? Priorities? That's when I felt a small amount of frustration bubble to the surface. Exactly. I'd say you and Percy rank pretty equally. Yes, you're my boyfriend, but Percy's my best friend. He's pretty important to me too. Luke rolls his eyes, picks his book back up, and goes back to blankly staring at the pages as he speaks. Fine then. Go hang out with your precious best friend. See if I care. And that's the moment I knew the tears were inevitable. And I don't even know how to say that word. Were inevitable. I never liked it whenever people were mad at me, but to basically say that he didn't care what I do, that broke something inside of me. I quickly grabbed the bag from under my bed and rushed out the door before Luke could see the tears forming in the corners of my eyes. I make my way over to Percy's cabin and I walk up the steps before quickly wiping the tears from my eyes in an attempt to make it look like I wasn't about to collapse into a crying puddle on the floor. I walked forward and knocked on the door, and I hear rustling inside for a few seconds before the door swings open to reveal a very happy-looking Percy holding 2 controllers. Something about seeing Percy smile somehow made me feel a little better. Like, maybe if he was happy, then perhaps not everything has gone to a total shit. And I'd be okay. It made me feel warm and somewhat comforted knowing that at least one of us was having a good day. Percy opens the door and I walk inside. Percy opens the door and I walk inside. To my surprise, it looked like he actually made an effort to clean up his cabin before I got there. And by effort, I mean, if I opened his closet right now, a bunch of clothes and random shit would fall on top of me and knock me over. But the gesture was nice. Percy's POV. Something was wrong. I could see it in her eyes. That sparkle that was always there, it was gone. She had been crying, that I know for sure. She had a smile on her face, but I could tell she wasn't okay. I wasn't going to try and get her to talk about it, though. If she wants to tell me, she will. I know it. I invite her into my cabin, which I cleaned prior to her arrival. I just really hope she doesn't open my closet. I'm glad we still get to hang out regularly, even when she has a boyfriend now. Wyan walks in and places her bag down. She always brings the best snacks. We sat down and started playing Halo for a bit, but Wyan didn't really seem to be focusing the same way she normally does. And not once has she stood up shouting how much of a loser I am when she won. Something was definitely wrong, so I decided to ask her about it. I turned to face her and placed my controller down on my bed next to me. Hey, are you okay? You seem a little off tonight. She fidgets with the controller before looking at me. I guess not really. And there it was. Any other person wouldn't have been able to notice it, but I did. There were tears in her eyes. What's wrong? It's it's just stuff with Luke. Her voice was beginning to break, and I knew he would. Oh my god. And I knew we would be in for a long night. My mind races with what Luke could have done to her to make her this upset. What happened between you two? She sniffles, but none of her tears escaped her eyes yet. He just got kind of annoyed when I told him I couldn't hang out with him tonight because I was hanging out with you, and I looked at her, waiting for her to finish her sentence, and that's when I saw the first tear fall. I know it sounds dumb, but he told me that he didn't care what I did, and I don't know why, but it just hurts so much. She covered her eyes with her sleeves and sniffled as I pulled her into a hug. I know it probably wasn't appropriate because she has a boyfriend, but that said boyfriend is the reason she's crying, so I don't care. She cried into my shirt for a while, not saying anything, so I didn't either. I think what she needed wasn't someone to tell her what to do about the situation, but someone to just be there for her. And I'm okay with just being that person, even if it doesn't lead anywhere else. I rubbed small circles on her upper back with my hand as she continued to use my shirt as a tissue. It was a little gross, but I didn't mind. I never judged her, and I know she knows that. After a little while, I realized she stopped crying and sniffling, but instead she had her head resting against my chest, and she had fallen asleep. You know, for a girl who just spent the past hour bawling her eyes out, she looked really pretty. But then again, she always looked pretty. Okay, look, I know she's with Luke, and apart from what just happened, she seemed pretty happy with him. So it's not like I would do anything to try to break them up. But that wouldn't mean I can't still appreciate her beauty. Because trust me, she had a lot of it. I shuffled back a bit on my bed, careful not to wake her up. And I leaned up against my pillows, trying to make her as comfortable as possible, although she seemed really comfy just laying on me. That though made butterflies flutter in my stomach. She was so comfortable while asleep on me. I mean, if that's not an ego boost, I don't know what is. I turned the TV off and placed my hands in her hair, gently running my fingers through it. After a few minutes, I heard a small mumble from her. Percy? For a second, I thought she had woken up and wanted me to stop touching her, but when I looked down at her, her eyes were still shut and her breathing was still soft as before. She was asleep, and she was dreaming about me. And by the looks of it, she was enjoying it because a small smile formed across her lips. That's sweet. Innocent look made my cheeks flush. How could she be so adorable? Luke didn't deserve her. She's kind, caring, smart, beautiful, and she's everything good in this world. And Luke is going to crush that. He's going to put out that amazing light of hers that I love so much. I know I shouldn't meddle in her relationship, but I also know that if I don't, she's gonna get hurt. And I won't let that happen. I mean, look at what happened tonight. He got mad over something as insignificant as not hanging out one time. When they hung out literally when they hang out literally every day, and he made her cry. How could someone like that deserve to be her first kiss? It should have been me.